Maryland Institute, College of Art, and past students and faculty, Baltimore, friends, and family. I am Mark Russell, and I have the pleasure of introducing Coelina Edwards this evening. Coelina Edwards is a U.S.-based multidisciplinary artist whose audio, installations, sculptures, short films, sonics, and textiles address memory, connections to objects, cultural identity, and materiality. Their practice is centered on research and personal history, looking through the lens of African American identities. Coelina explores acts of concealing and revealing, preserving and protecting, honor and remembrance through narratives from their personal history and those of the diaspora.
Thank you, Mark, for that introduction. Good evening, esteemed committee members, peers, family, and guests. I'm very happy to be here with you all tonight, centering the multifaceted experience of Blackness, creating a memory or memories, documenting time, strengthening communities, and being present. I would like to acknowledge and say thank you to those who have supported me throughout this journey. Mentors Howard, Nadia, Jackie, Fabian, Anthony, Amy, and thank you, Kaylee. Thank you for your support, your suggestions, your time. Instructors Janelle, Kyle, and Ann, thank you for being available. Morgan, Katie, Andrea, and the exhibitions crew, I appreciate you. Projectors are difficult. To my mother, Joyce Ann, my grandmother, Eva Magnolia, my Aunt Dorothy, Cousin Tish, Aunt Blanche, Aunt Kitty, my sister Alexandra, my brother Ibrahim, friends Melissa, Sasha Lorraine, Kanisha, Javon, Noella, Cherokee, T, Karen, thanks. Mark, thank you. Sandra, thank you. And to my partner, Sam Davis, thank you for suggesting me to come to this program. Thank you for pushing me to go to MICA. And to those of you in the audience I have not mentioned, thank you for being here for this discussion on my thesis project, Blue Body, a Site of Blackness, Joy, Protection, and Refusal. While we are gathered in this auditorium, the work on the screen reflects a deeply physical, intuitive, and somatic studio practice. My creative process during creating Blue Body, a Site of Blackness, Joy, Protection, and Refusal, did not begin with a rigid thesis question. Instead, it began with an assembly of materials, image archives, stories, the body, and Blackness as a framework. The material results of this practice are the curios, films, sculptures, and garments that will be projected before you today. The work you see is an act of encoding and decoding, a material synthesis of what has been felt, remembered, and produced. This work is an offering to those of the undercommons, opaque and full of possibilities. Moden refers to the undercommons as an ungovernable, often invisible space of social life and collective study created by marginalized people beneath and beyond the control of institutions like the university or the prison. Edward Glissant speaks of opacity, suggesting that we rather think about opacity as being that guarantees true mutual respect, diversity, and freedom from assimilation, rather than seeing opacity as darkness or confusion. I see myself as a collector, an archivist of sorts. I recall and record memories. I collect objects. I collect images. I sit, I stare, I share. I imagine, I reimagine. I inquire, I stretch, I pair, I remove. I conceal, I reveal. I consult, I listen. I feel, I protect, I honor, I cut. I sow, I speak, I conjure, I hold, I release. I repeat, I imagine, I reimagine, I inquire, I collect images, I sit, I stare, I share. I recall and record memories, I collect objects, I stretch, I pair, I remove, I conceal, I reveal, I consult. I listen, I feel, I protect, I cut, I honor, I speak, I sow, I conjure, I hold, I release, I move. My thesis, Blue Body, the Site of Blackness, Joy, Protection, and Refusal, is a continuous exploration of Black aesthetics. I'm investigating how spirituality, lived experience, and creative expression function not merely as cultural artifacts, but as active mechanisms of survival and invention. Materiality is a major theme throughout my artistic practice and my thesis project. Through the use of ephemeral and organic matter, rose petals, salt, blue soap, hair, eggshells, soil, and tobacco, I aim to initiate thoughts of rituals connected to Blackness and the African American spiritual practice of hoodoo. I aim to heal and care for Black bodies by sparking a curiosity or signaling a recollection of the importance of each element. With each image, I hope to initiate memories, nostalgia, urges to collect stories, and desires to start archiving images of Blackness. My intention is to remember the importance of the handmade, the labor performed by Blackness, and Blackness's constant contribution to invention. I stitch because I'm leaning towards the sewing machine as a tool for bringing materials together, and the repetition of pushing a needle through a surface, leaving a hole for entry, is my poetry. With this gesture, I'm suggesting the spiritual activation of the material, and the holes are symbolic. They represent the space for Blackness that I'm carving out each time I uncover a new work, or perform an installation, or share with community. When I create unique textiles, I'm thinking about the cultures of the South and their ability to invent warmth out of scraps and discarded. So I layer and combine fabrics, contexts, processes, and paper in search of that warmth. I'm celebrating the quilt's personas, utilitarian and decorative. Stitch layers upon layers, I'm fascinated by the quilt's physicality and its ability to hold memories and to tell stories in the same way as our bodies act as living archives. Most of the processes I use are internal. These gifts are ancestral, or one would say acts of following my instinctual knowings. Others have been passed down to me from Black women and those of the undergarments. The rest I have gained through exploration and from my lived experience. I invent possibilities with these offerings, making new offerings to Blackness. I repeat. I store this knowledge within my body, as did my great-grandmother the knowledge of the earth's medicine, and my grandmother who possessed the knowledge to cultivate the land and live from the soil and the industry's byproducts. Eva Magnolia also gave me the Black church and concepts of spirituality, altars, and rituals. My mother, equipped by the women before her, from her own body, she sowed an artistic seed. Joyce gave me my hands. And my eyes. And body. Permission to invent, to fabricate new worlds, or to examine deeply the worlds that already exist. She passed down her knowledge of all things. My mother, Joyce, introduced me to the theory of opacity before the sun. Constantly reminded me as a child that every aspect of my being was not and did not need to be for consumption to be. Her sisters, my aunts, offered the knowledge of spirituality, faith, prayer, and sisterhood. Ashe, Cleopatra. Ashe, Dorothy. Ashe, Gloria. Ashe, Lucille. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Through the act of doing and doing again, I developed my own processes of tools I added to my toolbox. Revisiting the results of these gifts is a practice of ritual. I'm conjuring offerings loaded with context and possibility. I store this knowledge, the love of collecting objects, sewing, the curiosity for nature, ritual, recording time, the interest in sound and the body, the spiritual, medicinal, and magical powers of herbs, the power of words, the color blue, a need to conceal, and the need to protect the body. I store this knowledge. Ashe. I use the senses as a catalyst for energetic flow. In my thesis project, Blue Body, a site of blackness, joy, protection, and refusal, sound, sight, and smell are signals activating feeling in the body. I incorporate sonic sounds in the pursuit of signaling a slow down to bring one to the present and to call attention. The vocal aspects of sound act as a call to action, to listen, to remember, to celebrate. I borrow common scriptures recited in the Black church. I use the power of words and affirmations as a way to remember the identities of African American bodies before colonization. I borrow contemporary music of the diaspora and the book of Psalms to create a recognizable space to bridge the gap between young and old concepts of faith and spirituality. Just as the Black quilters of the South, I collage together these fabrics. I alter the pace and sequences, adding sonics, chopping and screwing, textiles that organically uncover parallels with speaking and tongues. The sonic textile forms an incantation that activates the installation. The introduction of film into my artistic practice in this thesis project is another scope of seeing this process of capturing movement of the body and the elements, earth, wind, fire, and water, are my ways of using living spiritual forces to power the conjure, root work, and spellcraft I perform. The scent of soil, known scientifically as petrichor, and spiritually tied to ancestral memory, serves as a sensory bridge in this body of work. The smell of soil evokes the spiritual land, the physical land, where enslaved Africans cultivated labor-intensive crops like indigo. Wet soil recalls the water of rivers used for spiritual baptism. The smell of soil allows one to smell the land, see the blue-black continuum of the body, and hear the quiet dripping of water that binds soil and spirit together. What you see in the gallery and projected on the screen today is the material residue of my intuitive journey. I view these works in this discussion not as a final explanation, but as a continuation of the encoding and decoding process alongside and in partnership with the viewer. Next, I will share slides of my thesis project. I look forward to sharing these documents of my work and my visual language with you. And if you have questions in a moment about the works, feel free to ask. But if it's outside of that scope, please wait till the end of the presentation. What I hope is that at the end of this presentation, you have memories to share and comments on the affect of this body of work. The curio cabinet, the altar, planted in the soil or planted in the soul, a dark stained wooden armoire made to hold garments and objects repurposed as a curio cabinet and existing as an altar, possibly standing in a metaphor for double consciousness, an object discarded, not respected, organs extracted, given little to no value, perceived as useless. Yet this object is rich in promise and structurally sound. Its true self is a womb of manifestation. A few of my girls paved the way, manifestation through affirmations. This piece, when you walk into the gallery, is a combination of chanting the rapper Juvenile's Ha, a scripture from Psalms, tuning forks, metronome, and calling to friends and family. Throwing the bones, roots, doing the work, drawing and conditioning, a series of curios. The curios, these textiles are made from traditional and non-traditional fabrics, made of wood, synthetic fiber, vinyl, photos, and mylar. Cutting, removing, stitching, inserting, layering, covering. These textile arrangements are spiritual tools and ingredients for spell work and conjure. Root work, signaling, healing. Put that shit on. The moving blanket represents a transitory material used to preserve objects while they move, used in this work as a vessel to employ thoughts of movement and migration, a carrier of particles, a carrier of debris, a carrier of what I like to say, the essence. The moving blanket is soft. It keeps the body warm. It takes the impact, acting as a barrier of protection. Ebony and the circumambulation. Black ruffles, black labor of love, spiritual presence of blackness. Move around to the right and manifest abundance. Move around to the left, clear obstacles. The black industrial trash bag is a common resource used when moving from place to place. Its cut scallop details. It's cut and is constructed into a ruffle, exaggerated in length. Its formation is similar to that of a storm. I see this form as an accumulation of energy. Reaching towards the sky, focus, recalibrate, ask the blue body deep down in the soil. This movement is influenced by my formal dance background. Movement is influenced by my somatic practice. The movement is inspired by Abilay's dance company. Moving to release, moving to rejoice, moving to heal, movement that activates the stagnant energy, water, fire, earth, and the winds, and the whispers from the ancestors. Ashe. Thank you. Any questions, any comments, any memories? Yes.
In the clip of the video where you're dancing and you're doing your somatic movement practice, how were you feeling? How do you feel when you watched? How were you feeling it?
In the moment when I'm creating, or it's not even creating, in that moment when I am moving in space, I am usually operating from a space of removing a pain in my body. And those movements, creates a release. And once I feel that release, then I start to feel like a joy or memories. But initially it's all about like the stretch, the enduring of like pain and situational things, and it's all in my body and my shoulders and in my lower back. So the movement process, the movement practice is important to my physical being. Yes.
You mentioned that you were an elder. I wanted to know the origins of
So specifically with the altar, on the interior in the center, there is this soft sculpture, and there's one on the exterior too, on that door. And the one in the middle is kind of like representing my grandmother, like a center force. The wallpaper that's inside of that altar are images of my aunt Lucille, my cousin Kelly, my sister Alex, and myself. I'm in those photos of the wallpaper. If you go back and look a little bit harder, but my face is not visible. I'm kind of like turning away and looking down. And for me, that kind of like represents my identity, like these things that were present to my parents was clearly not my story. And so for me, when I look at those, they kind of represent my queer identity, with me being turned away and not being able to see my face. On the door on the left, there's like a pyramid form. I'm thinking about ascension, and throughout the installation, there is repeats of that pyramid shape or birthday cake kind of like shape. Specifically on that one, there's images of my grandmother and my mother, and right underneath it are rose petals, salt, cleansing blue soap, and what else do I have in here? What about on the top? As far as on the top, like the soda, that's offerings. The water is an offering. So the blue bottle is an offering of water. The ginger ale is an offering to my mother, and the Coke is an offering to my grandmother. In the mason jars, there's eggshell powder used to protect space. And then right beside it, there's crushed eggshells, which I use inside of those soft sculptures that are like root work to me. And there's a tambourine that's kind of pointing back to the Black church. And my grandmother, the tune fork, is something I bring into the space, thinking about frequencies and how frequencies can heal the body. And then on the top, kind of like creating the point, is a metronome. It's a way to keep pace. When I'm moving, I have this imaginary metronome moving in my head. And it's also, those are things that are in all the soundscapes in the film room and over top of the altar.
So Coco, this is just like I felt your energy, I felt the spirit in the room. Really, not that I got taken away, but I really was in it. I feel a certain kinship with you, just from listening to your presentation and seeing the work. And just, I love how expansive your practice is. Clearly, I don't know if you've seen mine, but I do a lot just like you do as well. So I'm curious of two things. When you first started the program, were you as deep in your root work, in your hoodoo work before, or did you get more deeper into it as you went along? And what was your practice like before you started, and how it has grown and ebbed and flowed throughout the practice, or throughout the program?
So like the spirituality and my spiritual practice it's the same, it hasn't changed. I've used those materials before. As far as, you said what has changed?
Yeah, or how do you feel you've grown?
Well, I think I'm unapologetically putting all the things together now. And a big component that makes me feel like I've come to a place of, like, this is it, and I want to move forward through it, is the inclusion of the film. It was a struggle a bit, because I don't like this. We have this conversation about performance and what that looks like, and I think initially when I think about performance, I think about minstrelsy, and I think about being put on a stage to entertain. And specifically with those films, no one records me, I do it myself, and I think it will always remain that way, because it would not be as authentic and as it is when I'm recording myself. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
When did you first recognize yourself as a collector?
I've always been a collector. I don't know what time. I was surrounded by people collecting lots of shit. Going to the thrift store, I'd be sitting outside in the car like, Mom, come on. And then now I'm the person that's in the thrift store and taking forever and making everybody else upset. But not collect the most random things. So, like, I'm not collecting figurines from a specific era. I'm like attached to people's hair and the lint that comes off their jacket, and like laundry lint and fingernails. I collect a lot of organic materials and bugs, and yeah.
Do you recall what you first, like the first memorable aspect of things you recall collecting?
Say that last part again?
Do you recall sort of something that really resonates with you as the first, most meaningful?
Bugs. I don't like bugs. But my dad I like butterflies a lot. And when I was little, my dad would collect butterflies from outside and like leave them in my room. And so when I would come home from school, like it would be a butterfly jumping around and running around my room, flying around. And so like I started collecting those. So that's kind of like my first memory of thinking about collecting these things that I am obsessed with, and I love them. And I take them out of boxes, and every time I come here, I have some of them, and I don't intend to use them or share them or talk about them. I just need them to be around.
Greetings. I love your work, and I love the connection that your work is to those who came before you, and by definition, those who will correct you. How does your work and your practice help you maintain the connection with the women that you named in the beginning? And that includes also the women in your recording, the women in your altar. What feeling does your practice give you? Do you feel closer to them? Do you feel like you're in constant communication? Are you channel? What is that feeling, if you could describe it?
I think I want to hold on to things, and as we get older, we lose memories. As so many new memories come in, we push things away. And I guess me activating or reusing the repeats of these images in my work are ways for me to remember, ways for me to question what I don't know. They also, these memories encourage me to be social, to ask questions to people I don't talk to much. I have all this feeling around family, but specifically in my Black family, when I grew up, it was just my immediate. It was me, my sister, my mom, my dad, and my mom's two sisters we really stayed in contact with, but the others, we would see them every blue moon. And so, just growing up, I guess I